your course informational session. My name is Andrea. I'm a former Mercy volunteer and now on staff with Mercy Volunteer Corps. I would love to hear who you are and where you're from. So feel free to put in the chat your name, maybe where you're from, and what brings you to this webinar tonight. Mercy Volunteers promote social change through compassionate service with people who are experiencing injustice in the United States and Guyana, South America. Volunteers work in education, healthcare, and social services while growing spiritually and living simply in community. There are opportunities to volunteer for the summer or for a full year. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about what each of those commitments looks like and some of the logistics of the opportunities. So I'll share some of that information and then I'll save time at the end for you to ask any questions that you have. Feel free to put them in the chat while I'm talking, and I'll either weave them in or answer them at the end for you. But looking forward to hear what you're thinking about, what you'd like to know more about. So let's get started. So the first commitment that Mercy volunteers make is to compassionate service and social justice. Volunteers compassionately serve in the spirit of mutuality, meaning that they walk alongside and empower people they're encountering through service. We focus on building relationships with the people that we're encountering rather than doing for. We really want to promote justice and the dignity of all beings in our work. So we focus on 5 areas of critical concern that have been noted and committed to by the Sisters of Mercy. So those are women, immigration, racism, care for the earth, and nonviolence. And then volunteers serve in full-time professional roles that are in education, healthcare, or social services. So in some sort of capacity, you're working in those areas to promote social change. So there are many different unique opportunities. All of them are listed on our website with a little description about the service site and kind of what the volunteer role looks like. But just to give you some examples, volunteers might be working in health education or medical translation in a free healthcare clinic. They may provide social services to people who are coming into the emergency department. Um, Volunteers working in education might be teaching in an after-school program that works on academics and social skills for girls, or support services in a classroom setting for students that may be falling behind or just haven't had consistent access to education. In social services, there's a wide variety of roles, anything from supporting women who have experienced domestic violence, working on housing, job readiness, education, social and emotional growth, all of those good things, or providing outreach to people experiencing homelessness, or some more like behind the scenes kind of advocacy work that volunteers can be involved in as well. So while volunteering, you're living in community with community mates who are also Mercy volunteers. So you're more than just roommates. You're really intentionally sharing your space and your time, your experiences, and really yourselves with one another. It's an opportunity to be able to reflect on your experiences and support each other through your growth and challenging one another to really reflect on the experience. So it's not always easy. You are a community that is really diverse. Sometimes that's culturally, sometimes there's age diversity, really just life experiences that bring you together from different places. But what brings you together is your shared commitment to social justice and wanting to be a Mercy volunteer and commit to these tenets and values. So you're able to share in that experience with one another and really reflect on each piece of the experience, your volunteering, your spiritual life, and simple living. So then in your community, you're committing to spiritual growth. Um, Whatever that looks like for you. We're happy to welcome volunteers of all faith backgrounds. We are a Catholic organization, but have volunteers and staff on all different journeys, and that's what we honor and appreciate in communities. So, what does that actually look like? We see spirituality as your sense of deeper connection with yourself and others and a higher power, whatever that looks like for you. So that experience is both personal and communal. As a Mercy volunteer, you have time for personal reflection and prayer, maybe meditation, whatever speaks to you. And then you have weekly spirituality nights with your community mates. So you take turns leading those, and it can look however you want it to look. Some volunteers might do a scripture reading and then reflection on that. As you can see, some volunteers do an art project of expression, maybe yoga. As long as you're having the opportunity to pause, reflect, and share your experiences with one another, that is a spirituality night. And then you also have retreats throughout your volunteer experience. So for the summer program, you have a retreat about halfway through. And then for the year of service, you start with orientation, and then you have two mid-year retreats, and then a transition retreat. And in each of those, it's really a chance for you to pause, step away from your volunteer experience for a little bit, nourish yourself, and reflect on the experience, and sort of navigate what this experience is informing within you, and how you want to be in the world based on the experiences that you're having. Then we have simple living. So this is another commitment that you do as part of a community with one another. In your community, there are many ways to live simply. Oftentimes, as a volunteer, you think the first thing, like, oh, I have to live simply within a stipend, which, yes, is true. But there's so much more to simple living than financial. It also has to do with how you're using your time, your technology, and really your resources in general, in a way that you are mindful and intentional about how you use those things. So it gives you the opportunity to kind of live counterculturally in a way that gives you space to focus on yourself, your community, your service, your care for the earth, and how each of your decisions impacts all of those things. So we do provide a stipend, which is, yes, a piece of spirituality or of simple living. But it also can look like choosing to get local fresh produce, choosing a game night instead of sitting on your phones while you're with your community. And there are so many different ways. Some volunteers also get into things like composting. So you can engage in simple living in a variety of ways. Whatever helps you recommit to sort of that intentional and mindful, slower, countercultural way of being. So there are volunteer opportunities throughout the United States and in Guyana. In all of these locations, volunteers live in either like a house or an apartment in the city that we essentially, as Mercy Volunteer Corps, rent out, so you don't have to worry about finding your housing. And we really encourage volunteers to get to know their city. We want you to make connections and be involved, and find a place of home in your city. So, we do have support within your service city. You have a couple of different people that are there to make sure you're doing well, you are, all the logistics are taken care of, and that you're connected with the Mercy community. So, in all of these cities, there are sisters and associates. Many of them also have a lot of alumni, from Mercy Volunteer Corps. So, we really want to help you get connected, in your city. You also have support people that are there to make sure you are doing spiritually and physically well. That looks like monthly meetings with you and your community mates. So it's really helpful to go through this experience with some folks there for your support. So as you can see, there are two different types of opportunities. So we're looking at the yellow dots are cities for the year-long program, and then the blue dots are the summer service opportunity. So in Vermont, volunteers are working at an eco-spirituality center, and the volunteers in Texas are working in a summer program for children who have experienced immigration, or maybe their families have. And then the cities in yellow, there are so many different opportunities. I definitely recommend going on to our website to see what sort of opportunities might speak to you and your interests. So you may be wondering what kind of benefits are there if I'm volunteering for my whole summer or a whole year. There are a lot, my friends. Um, there is personal benefit, of course. This is an opportunity for you to kind of pause and focus really on your values while continuing to get experience and um, commit to those values. So you have retreats throughout the experience, as I mentioned. You're building long-term relationships, whether that's in your community, with the Mercy community. We call it the Circle of Mercy, that once you're connected with the Sisters of Mercy and Mercy Volunteer Corps, you're always a part of the community. There are things like alumni retreats and get-togethers that you're a part of even after volunteering. So being a part of this network is really meaningful, and you build some solid relationships off of this countercultural experience that you all are sharing together, and there's a real sense of belonging with one another. Um, and then it's a chance for you to really grow in your commitment and understanding of what spirituality, social justice, and simple living look like for you. It's a chance to kind of unpack those things and rebuild them, feel stronger in some ways, and changed in even more ways. And then there are, of course, professional benefits. All of these placements are professional settings in accredited organizations and well-recognized organizations. So you're getting a professional experience during the summer or for the year. And in those service sites that you're working in, you have site supervisors who are really there to help mentor you in learning that field and that role that you are fulfilling. Um, After a year of service, you're also eligible for graduate school discounts with some of our partnering universities. They provide a variety of different discounts to folks that have completed a year of service with MVC. Um, in some cases, in the year of service program, you may be eligible for the AmeriCorps Award as well. This provides financial support for educational expenses, which is wonderful. Those can be used towards current student loans or future educational expenses. And then, of course, we know that this is a temporary role. You're either here for a summer or a year. Maybe you decide to renew for a second year. But either way, we know this is temporary. So our service sites and the professionals there are more than happy to support you in your journey, whether that's references or letters of recommendation. Many of our sites are able to be flexible too if you're doing things like applying for med school and have interviews and that sort of thing. All of the service sites are more than happy to support you in that journey, as is Mercy Volunteer Corps. And then finally, the financial benefits. So we are going to take care of you while you're volunteering. All volunteers receive housing and transportation. It looks a little bit different based on the city, but in most cases, we are renting a space and providing taking care of the bills directly so that you don't have to worry about those. And then the transportation, you'll either get like a public transportation pass, or if it's in a city where that's not a really reliable or very accessible transportation option, you share a car with your community mates and then receive a gas stipend. You receive a personal stipend monthly that's you can use however you choose, and then a communal stipend that you pool together with your community mates to buy things like groceries and household supplies. Um, so those are the two stipends that you receive. And then while you are volunteering for a year, you have the option of student loan deferment, which is very helpful. Some volunteers also choose to do income-based repayment. It just kind of depends on what your loan provider is willing to do, but we're happy to support you in trying to navigate that and providing the letters to share what kind of experience you are involved in. Um, Also, if you are a year of service volunteer, we will provide your health insurance. You can either join our healthcare plan, or we are happy to reimburse anyone who might be, you may already be on their healthcare plan and want to stay on that plan. We're happy to reimburse that expense. And then, as I mentioned earlier, there is potential for year of service volunteers to receive the AmeriCorps Siegel Education Award as well. So finally, let's talk about what the application process looks like. We accept applications on a rolling basis. So the sooner you apply, the more placements are available. We don't compare volunteer candidates to one another. It really is about if you are the right fit for Mercy Volunteer Corps and if Mercy Volunteer Corps is the right fit for you. This is a mutual discernment process in all of these experiences. Um, we want you to feel like this is the right choice for you and for you to be in the service site that you want to be in as well. So all of the application is done online through our website. You'll submit references, a resume if you're applying for the year long. You'll also submit transcripts, which do not have to be official, and then some written responses that talk a little bit about why this is something that you're interested in and passionate about, how your values align with Mercy Volunteer Corps' values. Your application is then reviewed by an alum and a staff member. And then from there, you are offered an interview with either an alum or a staff member of the program. And we really want you to be able to ask a lot of questions in this interview. Like I said, it's mutual discernment, and everybody who's doing these interviews loves to talk about their experience and answer what questions you might have about some of the realities or day-to-day experiences of being a Mercy volunteer. After that, you would be accepted as a Mercy volunteer, and then you're going to interview with your preferred service sites. So you'll talk with our program director about what your interests are, what skills you have, and how those align with different needs of a service site. So you can come to that ready and saying, these are the service sites I'm most interested in. I want to talk with them. I'm ready. Or you can come with, I have no idea. I'm really open. I'm happy to go where the need is most, or anywhere in between. And once you kind of figure out, like, okay, I think this would be the best fit service site for me, you'll interview with that service site. If it feels like a good fit, then great, you're placed, you're a Mercy volunteer. If you talk with them and they're like, not exactly what I had in mind. I'd like to talk to my second idea for a service site, and that's totally okay. You can talk with another service site until you find one that does feel like the right fit. There is no commitment needed to be a Mercy volunteer until you do find a service site that feels like a good fit. Like I mentioned, applications are accepted on a rolling basis, and since it's up to you where you serve, we recommend applying early, especially if you're interested in healthcare placements, as those tend to be the most interesting to folks and where we get the most applications for. So we do recommend applying early if you can. Right now, the priority application deadline is January 24th. You are welcome to keep in touch with us on our social medias. You can scan the QR code here to get all of our, our link tree with all of that good information. We also have a link in the description box if you do have some, just want to do some navigating around there as well. And then you're always welcome to email us. You can reach me directly at recruitment@mercyvolunteers.org. I'm happy to support you in your discernment, whatever you may need, if it's connecting with an alum, if it's hearing more about my experience, if it's just having some reflection materials to sit with, or just some more information. I am more than happy to share that. So that is my spiel. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And I would love to hear from you what your questions are, what you're interested in hearing more about, or even just sharing kind of what you're looking for in a service program. I'm happy to share more details about specific service sites as well. So I'll give you a few moments to type in the chat what you have. I'm also going to go ahead and leave my email in the chat. That way, if you have a question but don't want to ask on here, that's totally okay. I'm happy to talk with you over email or phone call, however you're most comfortable. So there is my email, and then I will also add in our website to make sure you have that as well. Alrighty. Thank you all so much for tuning in tonight. It was a pleasure to share a little bit about MVC with you. Know that we're always happy to answer your questions and support you in your discernment of a summer or year of service. Um, have a good night.